This video is brought to you by Squarespace.
Hey photographer, Jessica Whitaker here, and in this video I am going to be walking you through my very simplified camera lens collection of this past year, 2021. They are all prime lenses. Some I recommend and one is my favorite, but I absolutely do not recommend it. I think it could be a bit of a waste of money for some of you out there. So before we dive into my lens collection and mini review from a practical perspective, I want to thank my sponsor Squarespace for making this free photography video possible.
A photo speaks 1,000 words, but a polished and professional portfolio can get us those $1,000 clients. Enter Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for websites and domains. Photographers, it's time to be done settling for slow-loading websites with tedious plugins. I trust Squarespace's all-in-one platform to keep me booked and busy. Pick from one of their dozens of contemporary drag-and-drop layouts, host your custom domain and email with them, and even conduct successful email campaigns. Everything you need to run a successful photography business under their umbrella and at your fingertips. You can head to squarespace.com to begin your free trial, and when you are ready to launch your beautiful professional website, you can go to squarespace.com/Jessica Whitaker to get 10% off of your first purchase of a website or a domain.
Let's start out with the lens that has been my favorite for 2 years and that I do not recommend anyone purchase unless you have these very specific shots you're looking for. We'll talk about that in a second, but it's the Sigma 24mm 1.4 art lens. I love the 24mm focal length, and I'm shooting on a full frame. The camera that I use is a Canon 5D Mark IV. I don't see myself upgrading to a mirrorless in 2022. I've discussed that in detail in previous videos. The reason that this is my favorite lens to work with is because you can get some amazing fun wide shots. I particularly like to use this when I'm incorporating a lot of the environment in the background. I live full-time in Seattle, and there are so many gorgeous landscapes that I can incorporate more into my portraits when I shoot with a 24mm. But also with this lens, I have taught here on YouTube how you can use it to shoot portrait photography. Which, side note, I do have lens review videos for all three of these camera lenses from a practical perspective, how I always teach photography. I will have everything that you need linked down below, as well as in the iCards here and there. But one of my favorite ways to use this lens is also when it comes to any kind of movement shots. So I will either have my shutter speed be much slower so I can actually capture more movement in the image, or if people are running around, they're dancing, we have wind going. If you place this just so where it's nice and flattering and your subject doesn't look like a MySpace or a Facebook mom angle, then it can be so unique and a really fun way to incorporate a very wide angle into your shots in a way that feels very natural. However, I do not recommend that portrait photographers purchase this lens, at least if you are on a budget or you can only have a couple in your collection for the next year. You're not gonna get much use out of this lens. But I was able to actually purchase this from a friend used, and you can score it pretty inexpensive if you were to buy used on something like KEH.com. I'll have all of these lenses linked down below with the new option if you bought directly from the retailer or Amazon, or if you wanted to opt for buying used and save up to 40%. So in that case, if you can swing it, then I think it would be a fun addition. But just from that realistic, practical perspective, I don't think it's really anything that you need to have. The next lens that I'm sharing with you is the Sigma 35mm 1.4 art lens. And this is my least favorite lens of the three that I'm sharing that I've carried in my camera bag because I've had something else replace it. However, this lens is one of the most popular in the Build and Bloom Photography Facebook group, which if you are not a member, it's a free resource. It's a kind, encouraging, and inclusive photography community where you can ask questions about gear, you can get insight and opinion on client situations or final products before you deliver a gallery. It's an amazing, incredible resource that I recommend all of you to join, especially if you don't have that local creative community it's a great place to find and foster community. And the 35mm is one of the most popular lenses in that group, and for a good reason, because it is so versatile. In my lens review, I talk about how if you just are going to go traveling and you want to have one lens on your camera, something that will capture the environment, that will capture portraits, maybe full body, and just for family documentation, then the 35mm is a great focal length, but it's not a portrait focal length, so it's going to warp a bit. However, there are still ways that you can use this and hold it properly so you can have minimal warping of your subject, and I go over that in many YouTube videos here. So if you just go onto my channel and you search 35mm lens, then you'll see all of those tutorials. But this is a very fantastic lens for anybody who is on a crop sensor or on a full frame, and you are looking to purchase one lens in the new year, something that you can use for travel, for family vacation, but then also for portrait photography. Then I think the 35mm is a great option. And again, if you were to opt to buy this used on KEH, you can save quite a bit of money. I've seen it for the Nikon mount on KEH in the past for like $400, whereas if you buy it new, I believe it's $800. This used to be my favorite lens for gears for portrait photography, but it's since stepped down to number 3 because number 1 is actually my 50mm 1.2. And in between these two, I have been able to play around and use the 85mm 1.2 from Canon. Now, I was able to borrow it from KEH Camera. It was not something that I own. That's why I don't have it here. I actually sent it back a few weeks ago, but it is something that I will be purchasing in 2022 when the time is right. And the 85mm is a gorgeous focal length, but the 50mm is something that I think all photographers should look into adding into your camera bag if all you have right now is a kit lens, which is typically a zoom lens. Now, the 50mm you can get at the 1.2, or you could get at a lower price point, such as 1.4 or even 1.8. The 1.8 is considered the Nifty 50, and it's very sharp. It's very lightweight as well. It's a great option to also throw on your camera if you just want to bring one lens with you on vacation. However, it's not as wide as something like a 35. But the 50mm is beautiful for portrait photography, and this is what I use in like 80% of the time when I am on photo shoots. I also use this lens to film, but the 35mm is also an excellent lens for filming. In fact, when we are out and about filming behind the scenes videos, which many are coming out in the new year, I know that's a big request, we shoot with a 35, but when I'm sitting down, I shoot with a 50mm 1.2, and this one was used as well. I purchased this from a friend, but you can buy it again on KEH. I'll have all these lenses linked down below. 50mm and 35mm, both fantastic focal lengths, both quite versatile, but it's going to depend on what you need in your camera bag and what you photograph most, as well as if you're using a full frame camera or a crop sensor camera. However, I have you covered where I have done a video comparing the 50mm against the 35mm on a couple photo shoot. Watch that video after to help decide which you might want to go with, or if you're like me and you've been able to play around with the 85mm and you're trying to decide, should I get the 85, 50, or 35, or maybe you have one of the three and you need to know, should I get the 35 or the 85? I also have a video comparing those three focal lengths. In fact, over on Instagram, I frequently share on my feed lens comparisons so that you can swipe through and it can help you make a wise purchasing decision. All three lenses, whether it's a 24, 35, or 50mm, I have been able to get my money's worth, and I believe that is because I opt for buying used instead of brand new. There's no reason to buy new when there are so many great options for gently used equipment, such as KEH Camera. I'm very content with what I have. You do not need to have 3 lenses, 5 lenses, 8 lenses to be a successful photographer and to have a thriving photography business. Work with what you have and upgrade using wise financial decisions. This is something that I talk about all the time here on YouTube, but I know that you don't need to have a ton of equipment to create beautiful images and to also have a profitable photography business. In the new year, I am relaunching my online photography workshop where I teach you how to start and scale a photography business in your own backyard, regardless of where you live and how much equipment you have. I believe in building up the back end of your business before you focus so much on gear. Focus on client experience. Focus on nailing your pricing. Focus on your website. I'm going to be teaching you how to do all of that in my online workshop, but I am going to be teaching a free live masterclass on pricing your photography. If you're interested, click the link down below and you can sign up for the waitlist and you will be notified when the free live interactive masterclass is out in January. In the meantime, be sure to join the Build and Bloom Photography Facebook group. It's kind, encouraging, and inclusive and completely free. It might be one of the best decisions that you make for your business this week to join, because this is where you can ask questions and receive feedback on your work and on your business. Be sure to hit subscribe so that you're the first to know when new free photography tutorials for your business come out. And I will see you over in my next video, what's in my camera bag for 2021. These lenses plus my 85 plus a lot of other helpful little things if you've ever wondered what's inside my very ugly but very comfortable camera bag. I believe in you and I believe in your business, and I'll see you in that video. Bye.